Welcome to the Let's Go Guided podcast, where we bring you inside the world of guided hunting through real conversations with outfitters. All right, today we're joined by Bruno, founder of Trophy Hunting Spain, one of Europe's premier big game outfitters based just outside of Barcelona. Bruno's been guiding since the mid-90s and specializes in free-range mountain hunts across the Iberian Peninsula, chasing iconic species like Spanish ibex, mouflon, and red stag. From hunting in ancient mountain ranges to staying in castles, experiencing the true hunting culture of Europe. This one is going to be a ride. Bruno, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Robbie. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I appreciate you making the time work with our time change here. It's absolutely fantastic to have you on. I'm excited to dive into everything about hunting in Spain that we can cover off in the 45 minutes to an hour that we're going to be together here today. But before we get into the actual hunts itself, I want to get to know you a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about, are you originally from Spain, Bruno? Like, were you born and raised there or?
I was born and raised in Barcelona, Spain. It's the second largest city in Spain in the northeast. We feel blessed for not only being in the Mediterranean, that is, it's besides being a coastal town and a big town, it's surrounded by mountains. So we have a lot of good opportunities for going hunting, fishing, or all the outdoors. Just to have an idea, we have the Pyrenees, which is a mountain range. It is a natural border between Spain and France. That's only between 2 and 3 hours away from home. So it's quite easy for us to be outdoors and to do a lot of outdoors activities like hunting and fishing.
That's fantastic. And did you grow up hunting and fishing then?
Yes. So I'm the youngest of four. And then my dad we used to call him the perfect predator because he was a hunter, a fisherman. He was he was picking up mushrooms, asparagus in the springtime. He always found an excuse to be out there. And I inherited the passion for outdoors from him. He, being the youngest of four, he took care of me and although I was raised in the city, every single Friday afternoon after school, we were going to what we call our summer place, which is an hour away from Barcelona. And there I was hunting, fishing, whatever. He didn't want me to be inside. He always wanted me to be outside, doing something. So it was very easy. He was mainly a wing shooter. He was a big partridge hunter, and he was an excellent trap shooter. I didn't get that from him, unfortunately. my brother did, but he has the passion for hunting. So growing up, as any kid, although I was very interested in hunting, I also had other passions like bicycling, and other things. Yeah. But hunting, when I became a teenager, I became more and more interested in hunting, and then I actually started in the professional hunting side. I started when I was 20 after a trip to the United States. I have a brother who is also in the hunting industry, and so he offered me to give him a hand while I was in college. I thought that would be just a work because, although I really enjoy hunting, I thought, when you're young, you have very high expectations, and at that time I was studying tourism, which is, if you believe it or not, is very related with my profession right now. Yeah. So what it was at the beginning, like a part-time job, ended up being my profession. So soon I became very, very involved with the business. 5 years, that was 1995. So in year 2000, we became partners. We were together for 9 years, 9 strong years. We did a lot of good things together. But working with family is not always easy, and then we decided. I kind of decided to walk away from that company, and I started. I didn't want to continue by my own. I wanted to do something different, not related with hunting. But then the same clients, and they just told me to continue. So I started trophy hunting in Spain in 2010. And since then, a good thing about it is now I have a very good relationship with my brother. We both professionally and personally. When it comes professionally, I try to help him as much as I can. And then, of course, but personally, we got back that relationship that we used to have before.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So it was not an easy moment of my life, but it was a good decision, and I'm happy that it worked. It worked well for both sides. And then trophy hunting in Spain, I started in 2010. And it was funny that a couple of years after I started it, I actually, being from the Northeast, my main species is I hunted a lot Besete ibex, one of the four subspecies of ibex that we had in Spain. And just luckily, there is a mountain range very close to my house, about 45 minutes away, that it's kind of the most known mountain range in the area because of a monastery and a Black Madonna. Not about hunting. It's just because there's a lot of hikers and it's like we call it the Holy Mountain. And then back in the 90s, they released some ibexes just to fight the vegetation because they were having too many fires. So they wanted to control the vegetation. So they introduced some Besete ibex. And of course, the Besete ibex, males and females, eventually they start to be, they did very well. And they start hunting them just to control the population. And funny thing is, I start seeing what they were hunting as a non-trophy or calling. They're like, there's nothing wrong with these animals. They're just young. Let them grow. So I talked to in 2011. I talked to the wildlife department about it. Like, hey, we should open that to trophy hunting. And they say, oh, well, come on, Bruno. This is not a national preserve. That's another type. Like, hey, you can call it the way you want to. This is you have a jewel there. And
And
I know that sooner or later somebody is going to take the new world record. I'm convinced because they had the nutrients, they had the genetics, they had everything. And so 2 years later, after that conversation, they contact me and they said, Bruno, we're going to release the first 4 permits for hunting in these mountains. And guess what? With the very first permit that I bought, we shot the world record with City.
no way.
And yeah, it was, I mean, again, it was luck. You have to be, when you're trophy hunting, you have to be really lucky, you
Yep.
know. Of course, we pass really good animals looking for something better. That what people say, shoot on the last day what you will shoot on the first day. I don't agree. You have to, when you're trophy hunting, you have to pass some good animals, hoping that you're going to get something bigger and willing to go home empty handed. That's a risk that you have to take.
Yep.
But in that case, we were super lucky that we found this 14-year-old ibex that they actually thought, the game wardens thought that that was already dead because they didn't see it for 2 years, and he just showed up the day I was there with the red hunter. So,
Perfect.
so it was perfect, and it's still the world record. So that's about 14 years later, we still have the world record that we took with the very first permit.
That's incredible. So with ibex, I'm not as familiar with them as obviously the species here in British Columbia that we get to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
A 14-year-old ibex. That sounds like a pretty old ibex. What's the average range of ibex that you guys are looking for?
So technically, an ibex is considered a trophy, especially Besete and Gredos, which are the two largest ibexes in Spain. They're considered a trophy when they are 10-year-old.
Oh yeah.
But we try to take him in that range, about 13, 14, 15. The oldest I ever hunted was a 17-year-old, but that was like, it would be like a 120-year-old person, very, very, very rare, very few. The most commonly, we try to shoot something around 14, 15. It's a very good age. Yeah.
Okay. And forgive my ignorance, but how do you age them? Do they have age rings on the
Correct.
horns?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
like a sheep, like your
Okay.
sheep.
Yeah.
So it has every year has a growth. You see that the tips are the first year or first 2 years, and
Okay.
then from there every growth is 1 year. You can see that from the third, fourth year all the way to the 8th year they grow a lot, and then when they get older they start to shrink the rings. And then what I like to hunt when we are judging an animal in the field, we try to see like 3 lines at the very bottom. That means it's an animal that is old and it's ready to be taken. To go. If you see, sometimes you can an animal that's 12 years old, and I passed animals that are 12 years old because the last year was still big.
Yeah.
So that means that the animal is healthy, it's powerful, and it still has another 2 or 3 years to go. So let him go, let him grow a little bigger, and let's look for the one that is not growing as big.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I love the conservation mindset behind trophy hunting. And I wasn't necessarily going to go down this road, but you brought up, or I guess your company is called Trophy Hunting Spain. So maybe I should have thought this through a little better. But um let's dig into trophy hunting itself, because I'm a big fan of trophy hunting. And
Me
I
too.
think that it gets maybe a bad rap in the either hunting space or definitely outside the hunting space, where people think that the only reason you're going hunting is to have something up on the wall, like behind me,
Hmm.
behind you, right?
Hmm.
That's what people view as trophy hunting. But what you're explaining to me is selective harvest being the trophy, looking for that old animal that's not going to be around in another year or 2 years, waiting till they're towards the end of the lifespan. They've bred, they've contributed to their herd. Speak to me a little bit about conservation and managing the herds properly that you have access to. Like what do you guys do? What does that mean to you? How does it make you feel when you're able to be selective?
Well, that's exactly what you mentioned. There's a lot of people that they don't like the word trophy or trophy hunting, and that's because they don't understand the whole thing. They don't see the whole picture. The way I see it is, I hunt almost daily, and I see a lot of animals. And people that they don't know anything about hunting, they think that we shoot the first animal that we see in the field, and it's not the case. I will not forget the time I was hunting in the Sete, and we saw in one afternoon we saw over 100 males in different herds. I wouldn't shoot one. And I remember that we came back to the hotel, and my hunter's wife asked me, "So, how was your afternoon?" I said, "Well, it was awesome." I said, "Well, so what did you kill?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "Why?" He said, "Why you say it was awesome?" Like, well, because we saw a ton of animals, some that they're growing really well, that are still a little young, but we never found the one that we were looking for, which is an old billy that it's ready to be taken, certain size. And that's the beauty of trophy hunting. We don't go there and shoot any animal. We shoot the animal that needs to be gone. The animal that, as you mentioned, that he went through his life. He already spread his genes, and we need to. It's a moment. It's a time that we need to take him. We need to harvest him. I always compare it like anybody who has a tomato plant in the garden. And you go one day and you see that tomato that was being green for several weeks, and it turns orange and suddenly it turns bright red, and you go there and you're ready to pick it and you grab it and like it's still hard, and you 2 more days, 3 more days. That's what we do with hunting. We see this animal that you've been seeing for several years, and when you think it's ready, if you have a chance, with a high power spotting scope, you take a look and you look at not only the growth, you look at their hips. If the hips are bony or they're not bony, like they lose muscles. If you lose muscles, means that this animal is getting weak, and it's the moment to take it. And it doesn't mean that all the animals that we take are that way, but we try to take the animals as old as possible. You mentioned about the age. Where I hunt the Guerreros ibex, the average age of all the different categories, bronze medal, silver and gold medal, average age is 14 years old. And you're talking about the lifespan of 15, maximum 16. We could get this animal when he was 10. But because of trophy hunting, and especially the system that we have in Spain, that the bigger the animal is, the more the hunter pays, because of that bonus, the landowners keep these animals older, and then we take older and bigger animals. The same landowner will shoot that animal 4 or 5 years before you arrive with another hunter, and he will be if he will make it the same money. Why he's going to wait another 4 or 5 years to harvest that animal? So that's why I always explain to my clients when they're learning about the what we call the metal surcharge system. The bigger it is, the more you pay. Is because of that. Because of that system, nowadays we have very good trophies, very good sizes. We have, I mean, we are beating records because of that, because we keep the animals as old as possible in order to the older especially in ibex, not in deer, but in any goat species, the older they get, the bigger they get, and the more money the land owner makes. So that it's a win-win for everybody.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. It reminds me of a conversation I was having recently with an outfitter from Africa. And we are talking about the benefits of hunting, and where hunting is allowed, those species thrive. And where hunting is illegal, or um, you're not allowed to hunt, those species are struggling. And you know
Correct.
it's quite counterintuitive, but once you put value on an animal and you give a reason for it to not be killed when it's young, they flourish, right? And so that sounds exactly what you guys have set up in Spain, is that there's value to let them grow, and value to let them flourish and live their life cycle, so they end up being um, left alone, for a better word.
Right. Well, we have the if they have the value, we have the sources to manage them.
Right.
With these sources, we can not only we can hire people to like guards or game wardens to control them. We improve their habitat. We improve their roads to be able to hunt them and to control them. All these things that we reinvest into their management. That's what people don't understand. And it's funny. When I run into a lot of people that they have no idea about hunting. They're not against it. They don't know, or what they know is usually bad. And when you tell them what we do about hunting, as a professional hunter, what we do for wildlife, they're like, whoa, they get impressed. And because they have I'm sorry, but they have no idea what they were talking about. And that once they open their site and they listen to people like you and I, and we tell them, yes, we do kill animals, but that's what we do for wildlife. They're like, wow, they really appreciate it. And I always tell them, do you think that the animals first, they don't live forever? They will end up dying, and dying in nature, it's cruel. It's not. They don't have hospitals. They don't have morphine. They don't have beautiful nurses that take care of you. They die of hunger, of cold, of wolves attacking you. So we go there before that happens. We put him out of the misery before that happens. And because of that, we create some revenue that we reinvest in their management. I mean, you close the whole circle just by doing that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story that I think all hunters have a responsibility to share with people that are not uneducated, but they just don't know what hunters do. Because at the end of the day, hunting is being attacked from so many different levels, right? And different directions, and people, want hunting shut down, a small demographic. And we can't reason with those people. But it's those people that are on the fence. They don't know. They could lean one way or the other. If we have those kinds of conversations and tell them what we do for the animals and the care that we truly have as hunters and as conservationists, I think it goes a long way in helping the general public, get behind us and help us against these attacks. But yeah, that's fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about what the terrain looks like when you're hunting these ibex. From the few YouTube's hunting shows that I've seen, it looks like just beautiful terrain, mountainous, kind of alpiney. Is that the kind of terrain that you guys are hunting?
Yeah, definitely. If something goes with ibex, are mountains. It's funny that sometimes you have hunter like, whoa, and like, hey, when I actually go to the shows, to the hunting shows in the U.S., and I show pictures in my iPad, I say, hey, don't look at the horns, which are beautiful. Go behind the horns and look at the terrain, because that's what the type of terrain you have to face. It really depends on the area where we hunt. Can be more physical or less physical, but that for sure they live in mountains. There are the goats. Goats live in mountains, and that's their natural habitat. Now, as I mentioned, we have four subspecies of ibex, and for example, Gredos, which is one of the most popular ones, that is close to Madrid, about 2 hours west of Madrid. We hunt them in the Gredos Mountains. These mountains, I actually hunt in the National Hunting Preserve that was preserved by our King Alfonso XIII back in 1905, he created the National Preserve in order to protect that species. Then after the numbers of ibexes start to grow, they start hunting them. Just the royalty and then close friends and nobility were able to hunt, and that's probably the oldest hunting terrain where we hunt the ibex. That terrain it's mainly granite rocks, so it have a lot of water, a lot of it rain. It snows in winter time, and we have actually two faces. One is the north face, and the other one is the south face. The north face, we start from higher elevation because just to have an idea, the north face it starts from high elevation, so the climb is more gentle. Basically, we follow a riverbed, so it's not as physical. And the south face, you start from lower elevation, and it's more vertical. If you look at the mountains in Europe, the way we call it fallas. I'm not sure about this terminology in English. That when the mountains were created, the north one push over the south one. So they create the north one usually are more gentle, and the south ones are more vertical. So depending on where we hunt, we usually choose which side where we want to be hunting depending on the physical shape and the age of the hunter. If he's an older gentleman and he has some physical issues, then we usually go to north face. And if he's a younger hunter willing for a more challenging hunt, we take him to the south face. Both are mountains, but the north are way easier to hunt than the south. I say that the north it's a hike, and the south face is a climb. It's so, but definitely there are mountains. Then when we go south, we hunt two subspecies of ibex in the south. One is the ronda ibex, and the other one is the southeastern ibex. The ronda ibex, I always say it's probably the most challenging. It's the smallest of all four, but in the other hand, it's the most challenging. Smaller population of ibex. They had some issues in the past with scabies, with blue tongue, or with other diseases, so it put the population down. It goes by waves depending on the year, but it's still healthy enough to be able to hunt them. Very open terrain, very arid, very rocky, very few roads. So most of the hunt is on foot. So it's one of the most physical ones. Then southeastern is in the Sierra Nevada mountains. The Sierra Nevada mountains are the biggest mountains, the highest mountains in the peninsula. We don't hunt that high because in the upper part it's a national park and we cannot hunt, but it's a good reserve for the ibexes to move in and out. And the good thing about this area, besides being big mountains and big canyons, big deep canyons, we have a lot of dirt roads, so we can cover a lot of terrain with a vehicle. And it's the same case in Besete. Besete, most of the areas in Besete where we hunt, it's all farming land. So if it's a very picturesque area because back then, when the Moorish came to the peninsula back in 711, they brought a system to grow crops in areas that they are not flat. So basically, what they did in areas that is they have a surface, they build a wall, a retaining wall, and they build a terrace. So if you look at this terrain, it has multiple level of terraces all over. It's absolutely beautiful. Some of these walls should be monuments because they're so well done. So, and then the people in the back until the 70s, late 70s, they used to live in farms. And then they abandoned those farms. Most of the people abandoned the farms because it was a hard living. And back then is when the industry that they built clay, like showers and tiles and floors, they move into the area because they have the raw material, the clay. There was a lot of clay mines in the area. So the younger generations, they moved to the cities to work in factories and abandoned the farms. Those farms were, the farming fields were it had a lot of nutrients, and soon the ibexes start to colonize that land, and that's where they live. So we can cover a lot of terrain by driving in our four-wheel drives using their roads and seeing these abandoned farms, some are ruins. And you see these ibexes that they go down the mountains into these terraces to feed in the morning, in the evening, especially now in the spring, and then they go up into the mountains again just to get away. So all four are mountainous terrain, but completely different type of hunt. It's what people that they do the Spanish ibex slam, which is collecting all four ibexes in one trip. They really appreciate it because we travel around the country hunting all four ibexes and seeing the different type of terrain that where we hunt.
That sounds like fun. What a cool way to see Spain. As we get to talk with more people around the world, my wife and I love traveling, and I think this is going to be our new way to travel. Is going around the world and experiencing all these different hunts and seeing the actual country more than just the cities, because we've been to Barcelona, we've been to Madrid, but we haven't been to the hills around them, right? We
Right.
haven't experienced the country as much as I think we should, to get a
You,
true sense of what a country is like.
you have
um,
an open invitation here. You know, you're more than welcome anytime, Robbie.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that a lot, and will likely take you up on that. But run me through how the hunts happen. Like, share with me maybe a story of hunters and a hunt for each one of the ibex species. I'm super keen to understand, um, how you guys spot them, what the stock is like, what the hunters, what their experience is like when they're actually hunting them.
Well, the good thing about these hunts is every hunt is different. You know, it's I will be lying. I will tell you, okay, Creta is going to be that way, and the Cerrito is going to be that way. It doesn't work that way. And that's the beauty. Imagine that we'll be doing the same thing on and on and on. It will be a little bit boring. You
I
know.
wouldn't hunt. I wouldn't hunt if that's the way it was. Yeah.
Exactly. So I tell you about a normal day in Gredos, for example. We usually, if somebody is doing, let's talk about the slam. So this way you can have an idea of the slam,
Yeah.
and it will cover all four subspecies of ibex. But just to have an idea, we usually try to start in Madrid on a Monday morning. Because this way we have more hunting days. There are certain places in Spain that you cannot hunt on Sundays.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the way we schedule it, we can hunt as much as we can. So we usually start on Monday morning in Madrid. We usually pick up our hunters at 6:30 in the morning. We have about 2-hour drive to Gredos, so we that means that we get there at 8:30. We usually stop briefly at the Parador, which is a beautiful hotel that it's used to be a royal hunting lodge built in 1928. So soon is going to be their 100th anniversary, and that's a very special place for us to stay. So we get there, we just drop our bags, we have a quick breakfast, and then we drive another 20 minutes until we meet the game wardens. In Spain, when you're hunting in a national hunting preserve, it's mandatory that you hunt with the game wardens, but it's not the game warden that you can imagine, the typical guy who doesn't like hunters and gives tickets here and there. It's a different type of game warden. We do have them those too. Don't get me wrong, but not in the preserves. The preserves, it's like the steward of the preserve. It's a local hunting guide. Here, there are the ones who actually control and monitor the species. And in case of Credos, we have different type of permits for different sizes of animals. So when we go to with a certain permit, they know more or less what we're looking for. So they scout the areas before we get there, and they have a very good idea of what we're going to get. So we meet the game wardens usually at their office. We double check the documents that we have, the gun permits, the license, everything. And then once we check this, since it's the first day of the hunt, we like to always double check, so confirm the zero of the rifle. So we go right in the base of the hunting area in a place that we don't bother the animals. We just take 2, 3, 4 shots, as many as we need to, just to make sure that the rifle it's perfect, and then we go from there. So we drive to a certain point, we leave the vehicle, and then we start the hike. As I told you, depending on the north face, south face, we're going to hike or climb more or less. But we can hike for maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe for half an hour we get lucky. And then we usually go up the stream until we find, on the way we can see some animals, and we like to judge them. As I told you, we judge the age of the animals by the rings and also by the coloration. The in With our ibex, the older they get, the darker they get. It's the opposite as human beings.
Okay.
So we usually they start the dark hair start to grow in the front legs and then in the chest and then in the belly and then slowly start to cover all the thorax. And in the gredos, they can turn completely pitch black. So when you're glassing an animal in the distance, just by the coloration, you have an idea of if it's a mature animal or is a young animal. And then if we see a mature animal, then we do an approach. We, as I told you, we use spotting scope, so we try to judge him from the distance. And if it's worth it to take it, then we decide to take a final stock to try to get as close as possible, but not always is possible. Sometimes you have to shoot across the canyon. So average shot is around two in Gredos, I will say 200 yards, but I always tell everybody to be ready to shoot about 350 just in case. Once the animal has been taken, we go there, we take pictures, we just score it, and then we skin it. If we can, and the meat is still in good shape, we try to take as much meat as we can. We don't sell the meat. It's high. Our rules are complicated on that. So, but we do a lot of self consume. So we eat a lot of our own meat, or we just give it away to some of the locals. They do sausages, or they do like the Spanish biltong or jerky that you guys do, something similar to that. So everybody is happy, and then we leave the rest of the carcass in the woods. We're not required to pick it up, and then the vultures and the wild boars will finish it and will not leave anything left, so just the bones. So it's everybody gets their share. That would be a typical Gredos ibex hunt. In Gredos, especially in the preserve, we are 90% of the time we're successful on the first day. We like to have a second day just in case, but because of the game wardens do a great job by scouting the animals that they know more or less where they are, so we have a high odds to be successful on the first day. Then if we are successful on the first day, we can tour on the second day, or we just travel. As I told you, as you know, Spain is very touristy. So anywhere you go, not only you have a very good hunting opportunities, you can visit, castles, cathedrals, picturesque towns, wine tasting. So it's a great trip for the non-hunters as well. Actually, we provide a tour guide that travels with us. So while we're hunting, the non-hunting guests can be touring and enjoying. We make sure that everybody has a good time, So let's say that we're successful on the first day, then we travel or tour the second day, and then on the third day we travel to Ronda. It's a 6-hour drive. So we usually leave after breakfast. We stop for lunch. We usually stop in a Roman town called Merida, which is a beautiful town, and we have lunch in a bullfight arena, which is very very typical as well. And then we drive another 3 hours in the afternoon, and we get to Ronda. In Ronda, we stay in town, which is the town of Ronda is up in the hill, and it's very very unique because it's divided by a very big cut, and which is, they built what they call the new bridge that was built in 1750, and so it's a very very well known town. And a lot of people visit Ronda just because of the beauty of it. And then from there, we hunt not too far away, about 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on the area we want to be hunting. And a similar hunt that we do in Gredos, but in this case, we're not hunting a national preserve. The only preserve that used to be, they turned into a national park, so we cannot hunt there anymore. But we hunt in the boundaries of that national park, and it's mainly on food, so it requires. I always say, everybody can do it, but the better shape you are, the more you will enjoy it. And so it's not a matter of making it; it's a matter of enjoying it. So we usually count about a couple of days in Ronda. I like to leave a third day just in case we have bad weather or bad luck. And if we don't need that, let's say we're successful on the first day, then we tour on the second day, and then we travel on the third day. Then we move to Sierra Nevada. That's only a 3-hour drive. There this year we started to use a hotel that is right in the foothills, but it's right on the coast. So it's facing the Mediterranean. It has a beautiful view over the Mediterranean. In a clear day, you can even see Morocco. And then you have in your back, you have the mountains of Sierra Nevada. Then the similar hunt, but we use more the vehicle. We drive more. and usually longer shots. Usually can be 350, 400, I had people shooting 700 yards,
Okay.
depending on the hunter's skills as well and the type of
Of
guns
course.
that they have.
Yeah.
But because of the big canyons, it's very common to shoot across the canyon. Sometimes you have the ibexes below you, but you don't see them because it's so steep that people across the canyon can see that you're just on top of them. Like I don't see them. All you see are rocks and bushes. So most of the shots are across the canyon. That's your best shot.
Okay.
And here in Granada, in Sierra Nevada, it's very close to Granada. Granada is a very well-known town and actually has a very unique fort called La Alhambra. The Alhambra, I don't know if you had the chance to visit it, but the Alhambra was the last fort of the Muslims before the Catholic monarch expelled the Moors from Spain back in 1492. So that place it run for being the eighth world wonder. So it's very spectacular. You see the Moorish palaces and the Moorish gardens, and it's very very nice. It's a must. If you're in the area, you have to stop and visit it. So we always make sure that we buy tickets for our clients that if we need to go hunting, we go hunting, which is very unusual that we need to that third day to go hunting. So that third day we usually go to the Alhambra, and then we spend time in Granada, which also is a very nice and fun town. Also it's very well known for the flamenco, so we go to a flamenco show. So it's a great day, a great last day in the area. And then the day after, we usually travel to Castellón. That's another long drive, about 6 to 7 hour drive. Same idea. We leave after breakfast. We stop for lunch. We get to the lodge in the evening. We are actually our lodge is one of these abandoned farms that I mentioned before, that is being fully restored. It's a very nice hotel with a great restaurant. The manager is super pleasant. He does everything for us to please us. So it's about 30 to 40 minutes or 45 minutes away from our hunting area. Same idea, as we mentioned before, we drive a lot. It usually count 2 days for being successful. I like to have a third day just in case. And if we don't need the third day, then we go touring with the non-hunting guests, and then we already head our way to Barcelona. So we start the hunt in Madrid, which is one of the largest cities in the country, and we finish in Barcelona on the 12th day of the hunt. So this way, the hunters have the chance to visit Barcelona, go to the Sagrada Familia, and visit all the highlights of the town. Actually, we can provide also a tour guide. So it's a very complete trip because you see visiting the two largest cities in Spain and to hunting all four subspecies of ibex and covering a lot of the terrain in the country.
That sounds like an absolutely amazing time. A few points that I was just jotting down there while we were talking. You mentioned a couple times the non-hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that the setup sounded to me was amazing for a couple where maybe one is a hunter, one's not a hunter. But this is like a full experience tour of different places in Spain where yeah, you could take your spouse if they're not a hunter on a hunting trip. You get to hunt, they get to sightsee, tour, and there's the high potential for days where you're both being able to tour and spending that
Correct.
time together.
That's correct. You always, it's funny because that's something that you live every day and you don't realize. But until I think it was 2011, that I had two couples from Mexico, and we did the itinerary that I was mentioning: 12 days hunting. Starting in Madrid, Gredos, Ronda, Sierra Nevada, and we just finished in Beceite. We're just celebrating, having nice dinner and drinking, and suddenly both hunters approached me and said, "Bruno, we want to thank you for what a wonderful trip that we had." Well, my pleasure. I said no, and they just, I will never forget the way they say it. No, 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 no. You don't understand it. Like, what's going on? I said, this trip is so much fun for our wives that it doesn't count as a hunting trip. Now we can go somewhere else. And I never thought about it. But it's true that we make sure that the non-hunters have a good time as well. So this way, everybody has a good time. And even 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 for the hunters, some people say, I don't like to tour, I don't like, but it's not only touring, it's all the things that you learn, all the culture, all the our history, and North American history is so connected. We mentioned before 1492. Everybody knows about this date, and that was exactly the same date that the Moors were expelled from Spain. And so I would say, if somebody comes to Spain and hunt whatever species they hunt, and they don't tour, they don't spend one day in Madrid or 2 days in Barcelona, they're missing 50% of the experience.
Mm.
And it's a shame, because such a rich country when it comes to history, when it comes to culture, traditions. That if you don't use that part, if you don't enjoy that part, you're missing at least 50% of the experience. And so that's why we make sure that, some people say, oh, how many days for a slime? I said 12 days. Some people offer 10 days. The fastest I ever done it is in 8 days. Is it really worth it? Like, I had a hunter this year that and he admitted he's not in good shape. He's a big guy, and he's told me, Bruno, I don't want to walk. These are my vacations. I'm not like your regular hunter. Okay. And we were successful. I mean, we took 4 ibexes. We took every ibex on the first day of the hunt. And most of the time, the first morning of the hunt. And he wasn't getting crazy with his size, so he was looking for a nice animal. He shot gold medal engredos. He shot high silver in Besete. He shot a nice ronda, and he shot a nice southeastern, but he wasn't trying to break any record. He said, out of the 12 days, I hunted 4 mornings, but he had a blast.
Yeah.
He said, he gave me time to be with my wife. They brought another couple of friends. We were able to tour together, to laugh together, to eat together, drink together. They absolutely loved it. And I said, that was a perfect vacation. You don't want to, when I mentioned that I have a tour guide with us, they think, oh, hunters going to be one side, the non-hunting guests are going to be the other side, and they don't want to see each other until the last day. No, we travel together. Everybody has their own vehicle. We travel together, and then if we finish on time, then we tour together, and that's fantastic. To be able to. That's at least the reason why I travel. I mean, harvesting the animal is important, but to have to build these memories are even more important, in my point of view.
Oh, that's absolutely phenomenal. Um, during the hunt, you mentioned, being able to take some of the meat and whatnot away. When you get back to the hotel, to the restaurant, to the estate, are you able to cook that for the clients and let them experience what that meat tastes like, and what does it taste like? Like, is there a North American game animal that it's close to, that I could, tie it close to?
We try. I mean, as you know, the best way to cook a meat is when you age it, so that requires time.
Yeah.
So in long hunt, like a 12-day hunt, for example, this gentleman that I was mentioning, I saved the backstraps of the Ronda Ibex, and I kept him in ice for a week, and every day I was changing the eyes, and then when we finished the slam and we hunting the city ibex, I actually have a portable kitchen in my pickup truck. So we went to a beautiful spot that is a natural water source, like a spring, and we set up our picnic tables and set up my little kitchen, and I actually grilled some of the backstrap of his Ronda ibex on the last day of the hunt. He said it was one of the best meats he ever tried. People think it tastes like an old goat, and it's a goat. Don't get me wrong; it's not as refined as other meats, but it's not gamey. As you know, the gamey taste comes from most of the times comes from the blood. So if the meat is not being aged or being drained properly, is what it have that gamey taste. If you let it drain, or you put it, when I wanted to accelerate it, I put it in beer, for example. Any liquid with acidity will suck the blood away from the meat, and that cleans the meat, and then it's very good. I Just to have an idea, when my daughter turned 2, I had a birthday party for her in my house in my garden with all her classmates and parents, and I did Spanish ibex hamburgers, and nobody knew it was venison. Every, people thought it was just beef until I told them, like, what? I never had this before. Like, that's that well, that's not easy to find because they don't sell it in the stores, but it's actually very good. It's true that it's not as fine. Like, for example, I always say the best meat in Spain is the roe deer. Roe deer is very fine. It's a delicatessen. It's absolutely great. But I prefer Spanish ibex over red deer. Red deer, I find it's stronger taste than the Spanish ibex. Oh, it's a very good meat.
That's super interesting. Um, when it comes to Spain, you'd mentioned, you know, the different areas and the different opportunities for distance on shots. You know, average being 200 in a lot of areas, maybe up to 350. And then you spoke about if somebody is skilled enough to shoot longer, there's an area there uh, that they can take the longer shots. Is bringing your own rifle on the hunts in Spain easy to do? What's the gun permits and import export look like for that, or is it just easier to use ones that you have?
I would say that the tendency is to use more and more our rifles. The paperwork wise is exactly the same because in Spain we have something that I'm not sure in Canada. I don't. Do you have gun permits in Canada
We
or
have
just
to have
hunting?
we have to have a license for our firearms here.
Okay. But for example, in the US, most of the people don't have it. They have the hunter safety course, and that's about it. So what we were able to do, because in Spain we have a gun permit. So everybody willing to use a gun, either it's their gun or my gun, he has to have a gun permit. So it's quite easy to get it. Lately, the last 20 years, I will say, is that we have to apply to the consulate of Spain. And there's a form. Each consulate has a jurisdiction of the areas. For example, I know that in Toronto you have one for British Columbia and Alberta, and for example in Houston it covers Texas, it covers Oklahoma, Arizona, Alabama, different. So depending on your residency, you have to contact one or the other. We help them. I provide. We have to send an official invitation to the hunter, and I will help them filling up the form, just to make sure that when they submit it to the consulate, everything is perfect, that is not missing any documentation. And then it's exactly the same process: bringing your own gun or using mine. The only difference is I don't know in Canada if you have any kind of documentation like we have, for example, in Spain. Every gun has an ID. In the US, they don't, but they have the form 4457, which is a customs declaration that it's proof that they own that rifle. So with any of these documents, they just can travel, and with the gun permit, and then I will do all the rest in Spain. So it's very easy. Once they get to Spain, the police already know that they're going to arrive with that flight, and there's a gun arriving. What type of gun? So usually the gun goes from the plane straight to the police department at the airport, inside of the airport. And then the hunter, once they collect their luggage and the baggage claim area, they just walk through customs like they usually do. And then and one of our representatives, myself or some of my guides, will meet them at the airport. Just go walk to the police department, and then they open the rifle case, and they check that the serial number that is in the rifle matches with the documents that I provided, and then they're good to go. It's very simple. And then the way out is even more simple because everything is online. So we submit for an application online the day before the flight back home, and then I receive the official documents by mail. I print 2 copies, and then I give them to the hunter, and the hunter doesn't even have to go to the police department anymore. They just go straight to the airline counter, show this document that he's already declared this gun, then they check the guns, and they're good to go. So it's very simple. It's very simple. I always say when people ask me, should I bring my own gun or should I use yours? I always reply the same way. If you allow me, I always say I have two answers: one as a guide, another one as a hunter. As a guide, yeah, right, because I'm both. As a guide, I will tell you, no, use my gun. Why? Because I know my guns are accurate, and I know, and if I need to take a long shot, I know how to operate the turret.
Right. Yeah.
But as a hunter, there's nothing like using your own gun.
Yeah.
So I leave it up to the hunter. Whatever they feel comfortable, we'll do it. You know, it's nothing worse than when you provide a high rifle that it's accurate and they miss an animal. You hear, damn gun, I should bring my own gun, you know?
The gun, absolutely.
So are you like, you should, you know? So that's why when they miss with their own gun, like, okay, that's not my fault, you know. But you know, we provide very good guns, you know, and no matter if they bring their gun or use our guns, we always start the hunt by confirming the zero of the rifle, making sure the rifle is shooting straight, and because if they've been flying, you know, guns can get hit, and you know things happens, and if they're using our gun, at least they can double check the you know the trigger, and also we build them confidence on the gun, you know, that the gun is shooting right, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what caliber or cartridge rather are you guys running in your guns over there for these ibex hunts?
The most popular one that we use is the 300 WinMac.
Okay.
We are very happy. It does the job. It kills very well. It's true that for certain species like chamois or roe deer, it's a little bit too big of a caliber. But hey, we are trophy hunters, not meat hunters. So the main thing is to make sure that the animal it's being killed as fast as possible. One of my guys used a 270 Win as well, a Winchester. Uh, I see with people that bring their guns, very popular with the PRCs, you know, the 7 mag PRC or 270 or even also the 28 Nuzzler. It's very common. You see a lot more and more people bringing it. These are the in that category. That's the most popular ones. I have guns, but it's more for my personal use. I have well 6.5 Creedmoor. I have a 6.5 Grendel, which is a very tiny bullet, but it's great for roe deer hunting. You know, but that's something that I trust if I use it. But if a bad shot with those rifles in a certain animals, it will be a little bit complicated to recover. You know, so you try to be effective. You try to you know something in that category 300 we make. That's the most popular ones.
Nice. Um, what would you suggest, or what kind of questions would you suggest people ask their outfitter when they're coming to look to do a hunt in Spain? What are some of the what are some of the questions that you think are very important that people ask their outfitter?
uh I will ask, first of all, I will ask references. You know, it's very important that you before you book, you talk to people that they've been there before. You know, nowadays, especially since we have social media, it's very simple to build an image of like you have a high-end company and you are the rock star, and there's nothing behind, you know. So it's important to know how many years he's been doing it. Talk not doesn't need to talk to somebody like me. I've been in 30 years doing that, but yes, to have certain experience, you know. Also, for me, it's very important that they belong to the Spanish Professional Hunting Association. That for me, that's a sign of quality. You know, not everybody's accepted. You need to prove that you've been doing things right for a long time. You need to have at least two of the members endorsing you. And I mean, in the association, I'm the president of the association, and I'm one of the founders. And the reason why we done that is just to make sure that everybody who goes to Spain goes to a reputable outfitter, just to having a good experience. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not trying to say, oh, you need, if you don't, you know, you need to go with so and so. You know, there's so many good ones out there, but make sure that it goes with somebody reputable, because it's nothing worse for me to hear the story of, oh, I've been in Spain and I had a bad time. You're a bunch of crooks. I went there, spent so many amount of dollars, and I never got my trophies, stuff like that. You don't want. I heard that so many stories when I was a young outfitter, and always the same names come up. Like, let me guess. Did you hunt with so and so? Yes. How do you know? Like, same story. And for example, I had a client. That's a funny story. I have a client that hunted with me in 2006. He shot silver medal Besete ibex. Then he shot until now the biggest mouflon I ever shot in my life. It was an amazing mouflon, and we became great friends. And we saw each other in all these years in the shows. He's from Reno, and I was going to the ship show, and so I used to see him every year. And one day he told me, Bruno, you're not going to be happy, but I bought an auction item from another Spanish outfitter. I was just trying to raise the price, and it was sold very cheap, and
Sure.
not the first time. So he ended up hunting with one of these outfitters that I told you that is not very reputable.
Okay.
And I give him a tip. Okay, I said, okay, I understand you hurt my feelings already. I'm going to be very honest with you, but since you already got into that thing, let's make it happen and make it enjoyable. So I said to him, make sure that every time you hunt an animal and you're moving forward to the next hunting destination, you or your outfitter take the trophy with you. Do not allow him to leave that trophy behind in a freezer, because in that particular outfitter was famous of not paying the landowners. So if you don't pay the landowner, he doesn't release the trophy. If you don't release the trophy, you're not going to get the trophy in the United States or in Canada.
Right.
So that was their method. That was his method. I never got his trophies because he wasn't paying the landowners. So make sure that every time you leave a place, take the trophy with you, and then drop it in a taxidermy or keep it frozen until the hunting destination. That's a good sign that everything is smooth and everything goes well and the guy pays on time. That's important. So that's why I ask references, because you go to the trophy book online, or and you check also, for example, why I'm the one who hunts a lot of the Besete ibex, not only because I got it for the world record. If you go to the SCI trophy book online, you will see my name multiple times. That means I've been hunting in very good areas, and so things like that helps. And then another, it's very simple. I'm sure that you heard it 1,000 times. If you pay peanuts, you get peanuts. He offered me for that price to shoot the biggest we can find. Can you ask him how many gold medals he shot in the last 5 years? Right. I can show you my last season how many gold medals we shoot, but the clients paid for a gold medal. Yep. And that's exactly what we were just talking before about trophy hunting. Don't most of the time when they offer you a flat fee, and that's not gonna be wrong, there's a certain area that we can still offer. I personally still offer flat fee for certain species, but for gredos, pesete, places like this, there's only one way to take good animals: paying for the extras. If you're willing to shoot a big animal, if you're just going for the species, that's fine, But if you're going for a big animal, don't lie to yourself. Don't. If you pay peanuts, you get peanuts.
That's great.
It's very simple.
That's great information. I love that. And one of the things that struck me as interesting is your hunting association. They're talking about the fact that outfitters do get declined. Because I've been around different associations, not in the hunting space, where you pay the fee and you're part of the association. It's just a revenue generating machine for whatever.
Right.
So
right.
I can really appreciate the fact that, you guys do your diligence and make sure that people on that list are going to be reputable, and hunters are going to have a good time if they're on there, at least being one of the checks on the list. Now there's personality fit and all that stuff that I think are important to nail down and get right. But I think that's fantastic.
But that's what. Sorry, I interrupt you, but that association actually not only we actually asked for a high fee, a yearly fee, and that was one of the things. If we want to do things for conservation, we need money, and not pay just by paying $100. You remember that that's not the case. I think we're paying And now we raise it to 1,500 a year. And to become a member, you have to pay as an entrance fee of 3,000 euros. So it's the first year is going to cost you 4,500.
Yeah.
And not only this, we're going to make it work. So we have different committees. One of the committees that is more active right now is the conservation committee. We have our one of our subspecies, Visete ibex, is going through certain areas, not all the areas, but big portion of the area. We have in Mange, the mange. Sorry, I think I pronounced it. The scabies,
Yeah. Yeah.
mange. And so we are working on a project right now that we put together. We, not only the Spanish professional hunters, and that also we were doing it with Foundation Artemisan, which is one of the foundations that's doing the most for conservation in Spain. And also we are involved. SCI is getting involved. DSC is getting involved. Grand Slam Club is getting involved. So we're trying to put together all these organizations, not only money, also knowledge, to be able to fight this problem that we have now. It's going to be impossible to stop it, but just we try to control it. It's affecting more the older population because it's the one that has immune system the weakest. So it's affecting more animals starting 9, 10 years old is when they start getting affected. So we're working on that. So by being in the association, not only you are a member, you want to make you work. And now we're starting the campaign we have a great video that we'll be happy to share with you about to please donate to the cause. And also we already have veterinarians from the northwest that they are already sending us some of their tests that they're doing with North American sheep. So it's a very active association. It's not just an association of big names that they want to be all together in a brotherhood. It's a real association. We're working for conservation. We are working on, we just talk about consulates. I was the one in charge of talking to the consulates to make the paperwork easier. They to make sure that they understand that they are the first filter that our clients have to go through, and how important to do all these things smoothly. So because what that generates, for the industry, not only for the hunting outfitter like me, also who is behind hotels, tour guides, restaurants, all the money that we generate by bringing all these clients into our country to hunt. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy about how the association, and I think we started 2016, if I'm not wrong. It's been 10 years already, and we did a lot of good things for the hunting industry in Spain. So it's not only about getting together, which is also important, which is also, it's funny that we never thought about that, but now the relationship between the different companies is absolutely great. We help each other, and before that, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we're very happy about the results. But
Uh,
there's a lot of things to do yet still.
that, that's fantastic. I love hearing about that collaboration and the amount of work that you guys do. It's not just an association that puts on, a luncheon here and there. You guys are doing some real boots on the ground work, which is kudos to you guys for doing that. As we get kind of to our time here, I want to ask if somebody's looking to book ibex hunt, mouflon hunt, like you guys offer a whole bunch of different hunts. What kind of timelines should somebody be looking for? Like if somebody wants to do a hunt in 26 or 27, do you guys have space and opportunity for them?
We just came back from North America. We were this year, unfortunately, the shows were so spread out in the calendar, so I had to do 3 trips in January and February.
Yeah.
Well, I earn a lot of miles. That's a good thing about it. But we're mainly booking for 27 and 28.
Okay.
We had some bookings for 26, but I have to check in my calendar. I might have 2 weeks available for fall 26, but mostly for 27 and 28, and even we have bookings for 29. So I would suggest to book in advance to make sure that you're picking the right dates, both right hunting dates. There are dates better than others. And also, for example, when I have families coming that the kids are in school or in college, and they cannot travel and they want to miss school. So they have to come in Thanksgiving. Christmas, we try not to hunt because we also have family and we also want to go home and see our kids.
Of course.
But it's spring break, stuff like that, So one of the bookings that I had for 2029, it's a family that we've been talking for years, and they book for Thanksgiving 2029 for that reason, because they want to make sure that I was their guide, and then the DJs were available, and then we have people coming last minute, but it's more risky. It's more risky. We like, especially our system, that some people think that it's like going to Africa, that you go out there and you can shoot anything that you comes across your site, and it's not the case. Most of the times we're hunting where we have to issue a permit. So we need to buy these permits ahead of time. Just last week, I bought all the permits for Gredos for that I'm going to be hunting from April 1st all the way till March 31st, 2027.
Oh, wow.
So if you didn't book before that, you have we might get some permits, but maybe are not in the best places to start with, and you might run the risk that you don't get the permit. So I always suggest to book ahead of time, talk to your feeder, talk about all the details, and then we plan things ahead of time with no rush, and we do it properly. I had this year, the week before I was going to Nashville, I got an email. It was Friday, it was noon, and I had a lunch. I scheduled lunch with some friends, and I was supposed to be there at 2. So I said, I need to reply this message right away. So it was a guy from Portugal, and he was going to be skiing in the Pyrenees. He told me 3 weeks from then. Like, okay, we have time. But then he realized he mistaked the week, and that was Friday. He was traveling Sunday and going skiing Monday. We made it happen. And plus it was the week that we all were in Nashville at the SCI show. So I told him, if you don't mind hunting with us, and you're going to be hunting with one of our game wardens is very friendly, and so we make it happen, and he took his shit. But I don't recommend that. It's a lot of stress, and especially for North American hunters, Canadians and Americans, since we have to have the gun permit and everything, we need time. So we usually apply for that between 1 or 2 months before the hunt. So it's better to book at least a year in advance, and ideally 2 years in advance.
That's fantastic. And for anybody listening that heard these stories and is like, man, I gotta go hunting with Bruno and his team because they got it dialed, what's the best way for guys to get in touch with you?
The best way is to email us. We have a website, trophyhuntingspain.com. And there you can find our email there, or you can just fill out the form and submit it, and we'll reply to you in the next 48 hours. We're pretty good at replying. We'll make sure that we provide a complete response in maximum 2 days. Can be an exception that if we're gone hunting, but usually within that week you're going to get a response, because the different times, being making a phone call is always difficult because of the time difference, and also we are hunting, so I cannot be replying phone calls while I'm guiding. I'm a feeder, but at the same time I'm a guide. So you might be lucky, like today, that I'm in the office, but if you call me and I'm in the woods, I'm not going to reply. So the best way is just to email me, and I'll be happy to send you all the documents. We have great videos that I can provide, and pictures, and also going through our website, you have a lot of handy information there as well. So yeah, that's the best way.
That's fantastic, Bruno. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your outfit and so much about Spain with us in the audience here. Really appreciate the time. We'll make sure your contact info is in the show notes for everybody that wants to get in touch with you. And hope you have a great one. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you, Robbie.
100%, man. Talk soon. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Let's Go Guided. If you enjoyed it, make sure you follow along and share it with someone who's planning their next hunt. See you on the next one.